Hello, lovely viewers. You are most welcome to our channel Poetry Online. In this video, we shall be discussing the detailed analysis of Anthem for Doomed Youth by Wilfred Owen. Kindly subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get updates on all our new videos. Once again, let us assure you of a very interesting discussion. Get ready for this lesson. Wilfred Owen is an English poet and soldier, and one of the leading poets of the First World War. He fought in the First World War and wrote this poem while in a hospital recovering from shell shock. As a soldier who has tasted, heard, felt, seen, and experienced war, he sees nothing worth glorifying about war. This poem is written in the perspective of a soldier on the battlefield and tries to make a contrast between a formal funeral arrangement in the church to what happens to the bodies of soldiers in the battlefield. In the church, people are properly honored and respected before burial, unlike the war ground, where people all in the name of defending their nations are slaughtered like animals and treated with disrespect and indifference. The poem explores the horrors of war and the deep scars it leaves behind on the minds of loved ones of these soldiers. The pathos which permeates this poem comes from the fact that the lives of young men who go into war are wasted away since they are slaughtered like cattle. The poetic persona uses his poem to present the devastating effect of wars on the young soldiers taken into war, all in the name of patriotism, only to dehumanize them as they are made to face this honorable or premature death. The speaker's disgust for war stems from the fact that the death of these soldiers is usually greeted by loss of identity, disrespect, dishonor, and indifference. Just like an animal would die, and no one cares whatsoever to perform any funeral rites or funeral rituals for them, same applies to these soldiers who die on the battlefield. Anthem for Doomed Youth, by all standard, is a Petrarchan sonnet. It has 14 lines and is divided into an octave and a sestet. It has the rhyme scheme A B A B, C D C D, E F F E, G G, which is slightly different from the Shakespearean sonnet, which has the rhyme scheme A B A B, C D C D, E F E F, G G. By using a sonnet for the structure of the poem, the poet creates an irony. Usually, sonnet conveys images of intense love, passion, and perfect serenity. However, the diction, coupled with the tone of this poem, suggests that this poem is an anti-love poem. The message it preaches is not that of love. The poet deliberately used the sonnet structure to make a passionate appeal to humanity to see the futility of war, because not only are the lives of soldiers lost or ruined, even the lives of their loved ones, family, and friends are also ruined. So instead of the poet discussing intense love and passion for a loved one, as sonnets are known for, Wilfred Owen discusses the effect of war on soldiers and their loved ones. The images of war used in this poem gives a vivid image of the pointlessness in killing one another in the name of war. It also allows the readers to feel and imagine the devastating effects of war for themselves. These images show how inhumane war is and appeals to the senses of the readers as they are left with no other option than to reject the idea of glorifying war or exalting war and join the poet in seeing the pointlessness of war. Let us begin our analysis with the title of the poem, Anthem for Doomed Youth. The title of the poem makes the intention of the poet clear to the readers. The word anthem means a song of praise, devotion, or patriotism. However, when we take a deeper analysis of the lines contained in the poem, one will realize that This poem is not a glorification of war, neither is the poem exalting war. Hence, the use of anthem in the title is ironical, in a sense that it is closely used with another word, which is doomed, which means a certain death or demise, or suffer an unfortunate situation. One can equally interpret the title as a satire to these soldiers who lose their lives all in the name of defending their nation. Therefore, anthem for doomed youth. Whilst these soldiers are told that fighting in the war is glorifying, it defines patriotism and defines love for one another, the speaker or the poet sees this as a condemnation of their lives as they are made to suffer inhuman acts in the battlefield, since they are slaughtered like cattle. The contrasting meaning between the two words, anthem and doomed, rejects the rousing propaganda that glorifies and exalts war, because youth or the young men who are taken to war are doomed for life, since most of them never return. Doomed in the title suggests that these soldiers will eventually face death in the battleground and gives little hope for their survival even before we start reading the poem. The use of the word youth makes reference to the fact that the lives of young and innocent soldiers are wasted away all in the name of a war. What this simply means is that this poem is not a cheap propaganda that glorifies and exalts war. No, this is a poem that sees nothing worth praising about war. Let's now take a detailed analysis of the lines contained in the poem, starting with the octave. What passing bells for these who die as cattle? Only the monstrous anger of the guns. Only the stuttering ruffles' rapid rattle can patter out their hasty orisons. No mockeries now for them, no prayers, nor bells, nor any voice of mourning, save the choirs, the shrill, demented choir of wailing shells, and bugles calling for them from sad shires. The poet opens the poem with a powerful rhetorical question: what passing bells for these who die as cattle? Coupled with a disturbing simile, these who die as cattle. Here, the poetic persona dehumanizes the soldiers as he compares the lives of these soldiers to a cattle waiting to be slaughtered. From the very first line of the poem, these soldiers are presented to us as people who are doomed to die as cattle. This line presents the images of a slaughterhouse, which includes bloodshed, fear, panic, lack of humility, brutality, and violence. It also makes a mockery of people or the idea that glorifies war. He equally questions the usefulness of religious ceremonies and practices when soldiers die like cattle. The passing bells in the first line of the poem is a bell rung to announce the death of someone and a signal that prayers and farewell should be said to the departed soul. However, in a battle, these soldiers never get the privilege of a passing bell to call people to pray for them or announce their death and ask people to pray for them. This line goes to tell us of the chaotic and complete loss of control during wars. In times of war or in a battlefield, there is no time to ring a passing bell, and there is no time to observe religious activities that characterizes a funeral situation. Hence, these soldiers are not given the due respect they deserve, probably because there is mass killing, the chaotic situation, the complete loss of control during wars, and also because the bodies of these soldiers might be displaced and cannot be identified. Hence, there is complete disrespect and dishonor for the bodies of these soldiers. The second line of the poem Only the monstrous anger of the guns portrays the doom that these soldiers are faced with. Here, the speaker makes a contrast between what should have been the case and the reality on the ground. Instead of hearing the passing bells or mourners mourning their dead body, all these soldiers hear is the monstrous anger of the guns. Instead of hearing the sounds of passing bells to pay their last respect to the dead soldiers, all they hear is the monstrous anger of the guns. Here, the speaker personifies guns as being monstrous and angry. These are the sounds that the soldiers hear before dying. This line emphasizes the hostile, violent, and brutal surrounding in the atmosphere of a war. Instead of prayers, all they hear is the sounds of the guns or weapons used in the battle. In the third line of the poem, only the stuttering ruffles rapid rattle. Here, the speaker goes on to draw a comparison between a typical funeral in the church and what happens in the battleground. Rather than hearing prayers, all these soldiers hear is the sound of gunshots and other weapons used in the war. The poet's use of a range of sound effects creates in the reader an oral picture of the harsh noises of war, which puts the reader in a dramatic battle scene. The alliteration in these words imitates the harsh sounds of a weapon, which surrounds the soldiers before their death, can patter out their hasty orisons. Here, the speaker continues to talk about how fast these rifles are. The sound which characterizes the weapons are so fast that it makes it difficult for anyone to hear a prayer from the soldier. Or, one can equally say that the only prayer the soldiers hear is the sound of rifles, which makes a mockery of their death. Hence, war is not something anyone should experience or witness. Therefore, the speaker does not see anything worth praising about death when there are no mourners to mourn the death of these soldiers. No prayers are said for them. All they ever hear is the sound of the weapons that are used in war. No mockeries now for them, no prayers, nor bells. The poet continues in his attempt to draw the audience to reason with him that war is not something that is worth praising. He tells us that no mockeries for these soldiers now, no prayers, nor bells. So everything that characterizes a formal funeral situation in a church is not characterized by a funeral situation in a battlefield. Hence, war is not something one should be glad of, or one should not be proud of going into war, nor any voice of mourning save the choirs. Here, the speaker still draws another image from the church, which has to do with the singing of hymns that is done by the choristers in the church. In a funeral situation, these dead soldiers will not get a group of choristers to sing dirges to bid them farewell. The only hymns and songs they hear are the sounds of the weapons used in battles. The speaker tells us that the shrill, demented choir of wailing shells. So these are the only songs that the soldiers hear. The only choir these soldiers hear is that of the monstrous weapons. Notice that this choir they hear is not the usual choir that we all know. All they hear is the sounds of the personified shells wailing madly or dementedly. The use of shrills and demented adds to the extreme madness of the battleground. And bugles calling for them from sad shires. A bugle is a musical instrument used at a military funeral or ceremony, or it is an instrument that is used to call soldiers together. As the soldiers are about to die, the only sound they hear is that of the bugles, and all they hear reminds them of home and the grief that they are there for cause. The next part of the poem, which is an octave, begins with another rhetorical question. What kernels may be held to speed them all? Here, the speaker begins this octave with a rhetorical question used to show a contrast between a proper funeral arrangement to the improper death on the battlefield. The dying soldiers are shown no respect whatsoever, since there are no candles, which are a symbol of hope and life after death, not in the hands of boys, but in their eyes. Here, what the speaker tries to tell us is that the light of the candles that will symbolize hope for these soldiers would not be held in the hands of boys. What this simply means is that the speaker makes a deliberate attempt to lower the level of these soldiers by calling them boys, which shows their vulnerability in a war situation, especially when one is about to die. He tells us that the lights that are characterized by the candles will not be held in the hands of boys, but in their eyes shall shine the holy glimmers of goodbye. This line is a sad one. The alliteration in shall and shine further emphasizes the sadness of these soldiers as they are made to goodbye the earth. This octave is in the dusk, signifying the end of life of many soldiers. As in the last line, and each slow dusk, a driving down of blind. This shows or signifies the end of life of the soldiers. The speaker also draws our attention to the fact that the families and loved ones of these soldiers are left with no other option than to grieve the death of these soldiers. As in the line, the pallor of girls' brows shall be their pale. What this simply means is that, quite apart from the absence of candles, flowers, passing bells, and other things that characterizes a proper funeral situation, these soldiers will equally not get a pail. This pail is a cloth that is used to cover the coffin. The only assurance they can get is the sad faces or the sorrow of their loved ones, which shall be their pail, and not the actual cloth which is used to cover the coffin. The speaker goes on to tell us that nobody will come and put flowers on their unmarked graves in the battlefield. This makes a comparison or a contrast between a typical or a properly organized funeral to that which happens in a battlefield. The word pale means a cloth spread over a coffin. This cloth is also absent in this funeral situation because soldiers do not carry coffins to war. Even when a soldier dies, he is not put in a coffin, let more put in a pail on the coffin. The pallor, on the other hand, shows the color of the faces of the people. As we can see, he has a pale face or she has a pale face, which shows sadness or sorrow. The second part of this poem shows that in a funeral situation in a battlefield, there are no flowers, no candles, no honor, no respect, no passing bells, no prayers, and finally, no proper burial. Hence, war is not something anyone should be proud of or anyone would want to go into. Thanks for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video.